Hey guys, it's Adam here. I'm just gonna continue talking about my phalloplasty experience, stage one. So I've already spoken about my consultation and why I used my forearm, why I chose my forearm, or what led me to choose my forearm. And the second video, I spoke about my hospital experience, my pain and everything, and what I had to deal with. And now I'm gonna speak about leaving the hospital and just dealing with things at home, dealing with my arm, with my butt, scars, and everything like that. So leaving from the hospital, I was in Slough and I live in Scotland, so I had a big journey ahead of me. And I chose airline on budget, so that was the airport farthest away from me. So I had to take a taxi from Slough to central London, and then a bus from Victoria bus station in London to Stansted, and that was like a 2.5 hours journey, which actually wasn't too bad. I was I was very tired walking, but nevertheless I just did it. Um, and I arrived at the airport, and I went on a plane, and that was actually the most difficult part, because the seats in the plane were very uncomfortable. So I would say, if you take your second graphs from your butt, I would really suggest that you have a pillow with you, specialized for sitting down and making you comfortable, because that was really horrible for me. And it's not just only gonna help you in the plane or bus or whatever, it's also gonna help you at home. So yeah, and I've arrived at home, and everything was fine. I was having to do everything with one arm, because this arm was covered and not used so often. So you gotta really appreciate, it makes you appreciate what you never appreciated before, because doing the simple things like putting toothpaste on a brush was really difficult, because I'm like, how would I hold it? I have to put it down, eating and everything, just everything was hard, and it really does make you appreciate what you have. So it's not the greatest experiences to go through, but it does make you appreciate what you take for granted. So, and I suppose in some ways it was good. Um, in terms of my penis was never really painful. From the start of the surgery, it was never really a source of pain for me. It was just there. Had to keep it elevated for 2 weeks after 2 weeks after I left hospital, and that was really it. That was like the majority of my concern, just to leave it elevated. But it was never really painful. My arm was not painful either. It was just not mobile enough to be used, but was not really painful. The majority of my pain came from my butt, because I had staples there. So the way it happens, which I knew so little about it before I had it. So perhaps you as well might not understand a lot about it, so I will just tell you. So when they said they're gonna take a small graft from my butt, and it's gonna be like a small line, I thought it was gonna start from like the side of your thigh, from under the cheek, and it will stop where it meets the other cheek, but actually it goes in all the way where you would have your testicles. So it's actually just right the end of the thigh, like right in there. So it's both of them like that, and you're gonna have so many staples in each butt cheek, um, and that's painful. That was the most horrible thing throughout this entire thing. Not my penis that hurt, it's not my arm, it was actually my butt, which is the thing that I never thought was gonna hurt this much. It's really uncomfortable. Sitting down was just horrible. Sleeping, not very comfortable. Um, and you will be removing the staples after um, 2 weeks after you leave the the surgery. While you pass in the airport with your butt staples, because I did have a problem. I was going through this metal detector thing or whatever it is, and I peeped, and I was like, oh shit, I thought I emptied all my pockets. And I kept emptying all everything. Is like, I don't have anything on me. And I went through it again, and it peeped. I'm like, shit, my butt staples. And I was like, I went to the guy, and I was like, mate, I'm I don't have anything on me, but I've just been through surgery and I have butt staples. And he just, I think he was trying so hard not to laugh. I'm like, I'm not gonna show you, but this is what it is. Um, and he just laughed and he said, no, it's fine, you just can't go. But yeah, so you will, it will be fine. It will be fine. Um, so yeah, and for your to treat your butt, you'll be given instructions by your nurses in the hospital, and they will tell you that every time you shower, your bandages will get wet and you'll have to change them. Um, and your scars are gonna get wet, and you're advised not to wipe them dry, to just leave them dry on their own, to leave your skin just dry on its own, because if you dry it, that can cause infections. So just to reduce the possibility of getting infections, you just leave it dry the way it is, and that's exactly what I did, and thankfully I never got an infection. Um, if you have hair on your butt, be prepared for a world of pain, because every time you put a bandage on, and even though it gets wet when you shower, it still sticks on pretty well. And to take it off, it's hellish. It really is hellish. I hated this. I really, really hated this, because I showered every other day, and that was just a really, really horrible experience for me, just getting waxed in the butt cheeks. I don't have like a lot of hair, but specifically where the scars are, which are at the very end of the butt cheek and the very start of the thigh, and I do have a lot of hair on my thigh, so that kind of got caught in there. So that was a big problem for me, and I had to deal with that for 2 weeks, and it was shit. It was just really shit. So this is something that you're going to be prepared for, but you know what? You don't realize how strong you are, and there are literally just moments of pain, and then you just move on, and it's fine. So don't really, like, I'm telling you all of this, and it's not to put you off. It's just to tell you what's coming ahead, but don't let it stop you from doing what's going to make your life really good, if that's something that you want. Um, so yeah, fast forward 2 weeks, dealing with pain and trying to be comfortable as much as I can. Um, I I removed my butt staples, but actually before I moved my butt staples, a week after I left hospital, if you remember, I had to go to the GP, to my nurses, my local nurse, to change the bandage on my arm, because I was required to go to the nurse and have it changed every week. So I went there, and it was fine. It looked better. It looked a lot better. It wasn't as black. It wasn't as dark, and they've changed it, and that was fine. And then maybe 3 days after, I was sitting down. I was kind of starting to kind of, yeah. I was starting to use my arm a little bit more. But anyway, I was sitting down. I think I was on my phone or something, and I was just kind of became aware all of a sudden of a smell, and I'm like, what is this smell? And I was like smelling myself. I'm okay, smelling the couches, asking my partner if like the garbage is out today or something. Maybe that's what's causing the smell. She was like, I can't smell anything. And she sat, next to me. She's like, yeah, I can't get a whiff of that. Yeah, is it the couch? Is it that? Is that? It was like, smelling everything, and when it was just we couldn't find that smell. So I think a couple of hours later, I was doing something, and obviously because your arm is like not really mobile with it, so you just leave it down most of the time. You just don't use it. It's kind of away from me. But I've done something, and I moved my arm like that, and I just got a strong whiff of nasty, nasty smell, and I realized that was coming from my arm. I got, I got freaked out a little bit, and I called like NHS line, and they said, yeah, you need to go see your GP. But the problem is here that was, what was it? That was Christmas Eve. Yeah, it was Christmas Eve. So it was a really tricky time to have surgery, I think. Um, so I was advised to go to an out of hours GP, and I did go to see a GP straight away. And they looked at my arm and they said, yep, it's definitely infected. I don't know what kind of bacteria it is right now, but I will take swabs, and we'll do tests, and we'll see what kind of bacteria. But for now, I will give you 2 antibiotics just in case, until we get the results. And again, because it is holiday time, I didn't get to find out the results until 4 or 5 days later. And as you might guess, the antibiotics I was given did not work at all. So my infection got a lot worse. The smell, you can smell it from a few feet away from me. You can smell it. It was really strong. Um, my arm was incredibly itchy. My arm felt like it was being eaten. I can feel something on my arm. It was covered, obviously, and I couldn't uncover it. So I can feel something that it's getting warmer and itchy, and I just can feel dirty, like inside the arm. It's not just an outside thing, inside. So a horrible feeling. And by the time I found out the results, they said, yeah, definitely have this kind of bacteria. Here is the new antibiotics, but they also wanted to check on the arm, and they uncovered the arm, and shit, a bit of it was eaten. It's not what you really want to see, that a bit of your graft just got eaten by bacteria. But I don't know if you're able to see right now, but this is my graft, and as you might see, there are some dark spots here, for example. That was a bit that was eaten. There's here a bit that was eaten, but the majority of it was here. And as you can see, this is not the same as the rest. It's shiny, it's more shiny. So that bit got eaten. It looked green, disgusting, but you can also see blood and flesh because the graft is covering my flesh and it got taken away, so you can see my flesh. Wasn't a great experience. I got a bit depressed during, and it was mainly because of the wrong antibiotics that I took and the smell, and that's just how I felt about it. But as soon as they gave me the new antibiotics and they gave me iodine bandages to put over my arm to kill the infection as well, and when that happened, I stopped smelling. Like as soon as you put the iodine bandages on, they make a lot of difference. You stop smelling it, and I think that was a big part of my recovery mentally, is just to stop being aware of how nasty a part of my body smells. My arm was rotten. um and yeah, the antibiotics worked like a treat, but unfortunately that was a bit too late now because about my graft just got eaten. So yeah, I had to go down to London and see the doctors and see what's going on. And yeah, it was looking really bad. And what they did is that they some of this kind of there was like a rotting graft, a bit of rotting graft on my arm, and they basically just scraped it all away. And it was just all fleshy now. It was just all you can see is flesh and blood and red. And I might post some photos, but they are really graphic, so be careful. No, maybe not look. Um, but yeah, they scraped it all off and stuff, and I just kept changing my bandages every week until it all recovered, and it started to kind of like my arm started to grow its own skin, but it looks different from the rest. It's more shiny. It feels different as well from the rest of the graft, and that was an experience. So my advice is to avoid any kind of thing like this. That if you notice, so if you can try not to have surgery during the holiday period, yeah, go for it. But if that's the only thing that you can get right now, then that's fine. But if you notice something, don't just go to an out of hours GP. Go to an emergency room. Go to the emergency, because they can test and swap infections and find out an hour later. And that would have saved me the 4 or 5 days of going through this infection and having it get worse and worse and worse. So yeah, this is my advice to you. If you do have it in a tricky time, holiday time, do go to emergency straight away. Do not go to anything else. Not pharmacy, not out of hours GP. Just go to emergency, and you're better safe than sorry. That's really my recommendations. But then I'll fast forward to taking the staples off my butt. So you see a nurse, and they kind of hold like something, like a device, like a tool, and they kind of pick them out. It's not really painful, but it's painful, uncomfortable. It doesn't last as long. It doesn't really last that long, and it's an experience. It can be like 10 years from now, you can be like, I had staples on my arse and I got them taken out. I've survived that shit. I can do more. So it's like, it's a story. It's one that just increases my life stories, I guess. I can just talk about how much I hated the staples I had in my arse. Not many people can say that, or the fact that I got stopped in the airport because I had the staples on my arse. I like to see the positives in my experiences, to be honest with you, because I mean, there's no point in feeling negative about my negative experiences. It just happened, and a lot of people have their own challenges and their own negative experiences, and these are mine, and I'll just deal with them the best way I can and see the humor and the good side of it and the lesson I've learned, because I probably learned so many things from that and have strengthened me mentally and physically. I know that I'm bloody strong now to take on quite a lot of things. So it was definitely an experience. Um, but yeah, I think the infection prolonged my recovery time. So I was meant to go back to work after 8 weeks, but ended up going to work after 10 weeks. Um, and I worked, but in the time back in 2015, I worked in fast food, so it was a hot environment and everything like this, and I did not cover my graft. Stupidly, I think I was meant to cover my graft, but I didn't, and I didn't moisturize either, and that was really stupid of me. I think I should have took care of my graft more, but I didn't. And I was like going out in the sun, and like it's really common to hear that you're not meant to expose your graft to sunlight, direct sunlight, in the first year or two, and I did that. I just let it, and as a result, my graft got a bit darker. So my graft, you can see my graft, it's darker than my skin. Actually, it's got like pigmentation. And I have seen a doctor about that, and they said it was actually for another reason, but they said that they can help with pigmentation and make it lighter. They said that there are two treatments. They can give me a cream, but it will eventually the color will eventually come back, and I'll have to start on the cream again. I was like, no, no, thank you. I don't really want to be on another medicine for the rest of my life. And the second one was laser treatment, but again, they said that it comes back a couple of years later, and I'm like, I don't really want to be tied up to another treatment, another medicine. I have got testosterone, and I intend to have this as the only medicine I'm going to be for the rest of my life. I don't intend to have any more surgeries or anything. So to me, that was like, you know what, it's a bit dark. I've lived with it for a couple of years already. It's not really bothering me that much. I've got used to it now, so who cares? So yeah, I'm just gonna leave it the way it is. But as advice to you, do moisturize quite a lot and don't expose it to sunlight. And if you do work in a hot environment, try to cover it. These are like, I think, the best piece of advice I can give you, because if I've regretted anything during that phalloplasty, that would be one of those things. That I wish I've taken better care of my graft. Um, but yeah, I've recovered and I went back. I am a full-time cyclist, or I was. I stopped being a full-time cyclist, but I was a full-time cyclist at the time. And after 10 weeks, I went on my bike. It was slightly uncomfortable for my groin and my butt, but I got used to it, and that was fine. I just put my seat slightly lower, so I'm not strained as much. I'm not putting a lot of weight and focus on my butt and groin, and it worked fine. I was fine with my hand. Um, as I've mentioned before, I've always took care of my arm. I worked really, really hard. I give it the attention it needed. It's not that I needed to work hard or not. I just needed to give it attention. I think this is the thing that I've done really right about my arm and my hand and my wrist. That I've took care of it. I worked on it. Every time I worked out, I gave it the time and attention it needed to get it back to speed with the other arm, to get it in the same flexibility, the same strength, and the same everything. So I was never really bothered, going back to work and holding heavy stuff and anything like this. I was okay. Um, so yeah, this is my experience with phalloplasty stage number 1. If you have any questions, please do let me know, and I will try my best to help you. This is why I'm doing this channel. So it's just a chance for me to connect with others and help you whatever you need. Anyway, so yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I will, well, I'm not gonna see you, but you will see me.